The group has learned to avoid the infected as much as possible. Direct confrontation is too risky, especially now that the zombies seem to be getting faster and more aggressive. They've developed strategies, staying quiet, moving at night, and avoiding open areas. But even the best laid plans can go wrong. One evening, as they're making their way through a wooded area, they come across a small cluster of houses. The buildings are old and decrepit, half hidden by the overgrowth, but they might hold valuable supplies. They decide to split up, searching the houses in pairs. Sarah and David take one house, while Tom and Emma take another. Rachel is left alone to search a smaller, single-story building at the edge of the property. As Rachel enters the house, the air inside is thick with dust, and the floor creaks under her feet. She moves cautiously, her flashlight sweeping the darkened rooms. There's a strange, almost oppressive silence that makes her uneasy. In the kitchen, she finds a few canned goods in a cabinet, but as she reaches for them, she hears a noise from behind, a faint, scraping sound. She freezes, her heart hammering in her chest. Slowly, she turns around, her flashlight flickering as it illuminates the source of the noise. In the corner of the room, partially hidden by shadows, is a zombie. It's crouched on the floor, its back to her, its fingers scraping against the floorboards as it feasts on something unidentifiable. Rachel's breath catches in her throat. The creature is grotesque, its skin pale and stretched tight over its bones, its clothes tattered and soaked in blood. The sight of it sends a wave of nausea through her, but she knows she can't afford to panic. Slowly, she begins to back away, her movements careful and deliberate. The floor creaks beneath her feet, but the zombie doesn't seem to notice. It's too engrossed in its grisly meal to pay attention to anything else. Rachel's heart pounds in her ears, her mind racing with the need to escape. But just as she reaches the doorway, her flashlight flickers and dies, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden loss of light startles her, and she stumbles, knocking over a metal pot that clatters loudly to the floor. The noise snaps the zombie out of its trance. It jerks its head up, its milky eyes locking onto Rachel's silhouette. With a guttural growl, it rises to its feet and lurches toward her, its movements slow but deliberate. Rachel's survival instincts kick in. She turns and bolts out of the kitchen, her hands fumbling in the dark as she tries to find the front door. The zombie is close behind her, its snarls growing louder with each step. She can hear its ragged breathing, feel the air grow colder as it closes the distance. Finally, she finds the doorknob and yanks the door open. She stumbles out into the night, her lungs burning as she sprints toward the others. The sound of the zombie's pursuit fills her with terror, but she doesn't dare look back. As she reaches the others, who are emerging from the houses with their own finds, she shouts a warning. "It's right behind me. Run!" Tom, hearing the urgency in her voice, reacts immediately. He grabs a heavy pipe from his backpack and positions himself between Rachel and the approaching zombie. Emma and David quickly join him, forming a protective line. The zombie bursts out of the house, its gaunt frame barely visible in the dim light. It charges at them with an unnatural ferocity, its teeth bared and hands outstretched. Tom swings the pipe with all his strength, striking the zombie in the head. The impact sends it reeling, but it doesn't go down. Instead, it lunges at Tom, its decayed hands clawing at him. Emma steps forward, her knife flashing in the dark as she stabs the creature in the neck. Blackened blood spurts from the wound, but the zombie doesn't stop. It's relentless, driven by an insatiable hunger. David, who has been recording the entire encounter, realizes they need to act fast. "Go for the head," he yells, the camera still rolling. Tom and Emma coordinate their attacks, landing blow after blow until finally, the zombie collapses to the ground, its head caved in from the force. They stand over the body, panting and shaken, but victorious. Rachel, still catching her breath, looks at the others with wide eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "It's not your fault," Tom interrupts, wiping sweat from his brow. "These things are getting more aggressive. We need to be more careful." Sarah, who had been watching from a distance, approaches them. Her face is pale, but her voice is steady. "We need to move. There could be more of them nearby." They quickly gather their supplies and leave the area, the weight of what just happened heavy on their minds. The encounter has shaken them, a stark reminder of how dangerous their situation has become. The zombies are no longer the slow, shambling creatures they once thought they were. They're evolving, becoming faster, more cunning, and more deadly. As the days turn into weeks, the constant threat of danger begins to wear down the group's morale. The stress of survival, coupled with the fear of the infected, starts to take a toll on their relationships. Tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface now begin to boil over, leading to arguments and disagreements. One evening, as they sit around a small campfire, the group's mood is somber. They've found a relatively safe place to rest for the night, a secluded clearing in the woods, but the events of the day have left them on edge. The air is thick with unspoken tension, each person lost in their own thoughts. David, who has been growing increasingly withdrawn, finally speaks up. "We can't keep going like this," he says, his voice tinged with frustration. "We need a plan. We can't just keep running from place to place, scavenging for scraps. It's not sustainable." Tom, who has been the group's leader in practical matters, bristles at David's tone. "And what exactly do you suggest we do? We're doing what we have to do to survive. There's no roadmap for this, David." David glares at him, his frustration boiling over. "That's exactly the problem, Tom. We're reacting, not planning. We need to think ahead, find a place where we can stay long-term, build defenses, and what?" Tom snaps, cutting him off. "Settle down and hope the zombies don't find us. You think we're just going to magically stumble upon some safe haven where everything will be okay? Get real, David. This is the world now. We move, we survive, or we die." The tension between them crackles in the air, drawing the attention of the others. Sarah, sensing the argument spiraling out of control, tries to intervene. "Both of you, stop it. We're all tired and scared, but fighting each other isn't going to help. We need to stick together." But the damage is done. Tom and David exchange heated glares, neither willing to back down. The group's unity, once their greatest strength, now feels fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. Emma, who has been silent throughout the exchange, finally speaks up. "Maybe David's right. We can't just keep running forever. We need to find a place to settle, even if it's just temporary. We're running out of options." Tom looks at her, his expression softening slightly. "And what if that place doesn't exist, Emma? What if we're just fooling ourselves? We won't know unless we try," she replies, her voice calm but firm. "We've made it this far. We can't give up now." The argument fizzles out, leaving the group in an uneasy silence. They all know that Emma has a point, but the reality of their situation makes it hard to hold on to hope. The world is a dangerous place, and every day feels like a struggle just to stay alive. Sarah, trying to diffuse the tension, suggests they take turns on watch for the night. As they settle into their respective roles, the atmosphere remains heavy, the cracks in their group dynamic growing wider. The next morning, they continue their journey, the unspoken tension from the previous night hanging over them like a cloud. They move quietly through the forest, their senses on high alert for any signs of danger. The air is thick with humidity, the oppressive heat sapping their energy. After several hours of walking, they come across an old, abandoned farm. The house is weathered and overgrown with vines, but it appears structurally sound. It's isolated, surrounded by fields that have long since gone fallow, and the dense forest acts as a natural barrier. Tom, ever the pragmatist, suggests they check it out. It's worth a look. If it's secure, we could stay here for a few days, rest, and plan our next move. The others agree, and they cautiously approach the house. Inside, they find it largely untouched, as if the previous occupants had left in a hurry. The furniture is covered in dust, and the air smells of mildew, but there are no immediate signs of danger. They spend the rest of the day fortifying the house, securing the doors and windows, and setting up a makeshift perimeter around the property. For the first time in what feels like forever, they have a roof over their heads and a sense of security, however temporary.